Hello everyone. I hope you all are having a beautiful day. I wanted to make this video to share my personal story with you guys. So I want to start by saying I had a rough childhood, but I am healing. I've healed through a lot of it, and I just want to share my story and tell you guys how I ended up where I am now. So, early on in childhood, I was abused by several people, and I was bullied a lot in school. I was outcast, and I self-harmed a lot, and then in my early teenage years, I found myself in a few different, very abusive relationships with partners, and that did not help my self-esteem at all. So I began to self-harm even more. I went down a completely destructive path where I left home when I was 16, and I basically jumped from place to place for a good few months. I did a lot of drugs. I didn't care about myself or really anybody else. I was completely adrift. I don't even know what I was really thinking at the time. I had repressed a lot of things. I just bottled everything up and shoved it down, pushed it away, and basically thought if I just don't look at this stuff, it's never gonna come up again. Well, I was very wrong. So, I found myself so extremely lonely. I was so sad. I was alone. I didn't even like myself at the time, so I wasn't okay when I was alone. And a way that I would semi-cope would be to surround myself with people. It didn't matter who they were, what they were doing, as long as I was not alone. Being alone just by myself was worse than anything else in that point of my life. So I did a lot of bad things. I did drugs to try and just escape my mind and anything to just get away. And that didn't really work. So I found myself in a really abusive relationship and doing some very bad drugs, and I realized, this is not how I want to live my life. I ended up having a really bad night and almost getting raped, and had to get my sister to come pick me up from a party, and it was a very horrible night. Luckily, my mom wasn't too mad at me because I did ask for help. So after that night, I realized something needed to change. So I spent that summer really just hiding away from the world. It wasn't negative. I wasn't, caging myself, but I really I didn't talk to many people at all. I didn't go out as much. I didn't really do anything, and that was really good for me. At that point, I had been out so much, so I just stayed home. I watched a lot of TV. That probably wasn't the best thing, but I did a lot of meditation. I spent a lot of time outside, and I realized that I didn't know who I was. I spent my whole life clinging to other people, wanting to fit in, have people like me, think highly of me when they rarely did, and I really didn't know who I was or wanted to be. So I began exploring. I read, I painted, I listened to music that I actually liked and not just what everybody else was listening to. I found my love of crystals. I started just doing yoga and just sitting still with myself. I had also been diagnosed with PTSD, and I had started this type of therapy with a red pen. It's called like the red dot therapy. And I realized after a few times in therapy, I could do this alone by myself. So I began doing that almost daily. I sat with myself alone and I just breathed and sunk into myself, and one event at a time, one trauma at a time, I completely overwhelmed myself in it. I felt what it was at the time, what happened, how did it affect me later on, all of the feelings surrounding each event until eventually it faded away. During that process of healing was probably the hardest part. I cried a lot. I had many panic attacks and so much anxiety, and it almost felt worse. I almost quit many times, and I'm so proud of myself for pushing through that hard time. Healing really is not rainbows and sunshine and positive energy and everything. It's really not all that stuff. It's very rough and difficult to go through something like that. But every day I sat with myself and I went through everything I went through. I thought about everything I did, everything I was put through, everything I did to others, and thought, said, anything, all the way up to where I was at that point, and I still do that to where I am now. And then eventually, all those negative feelings just faded away. They drifted off into the wind, and I no longer had extreme panic attacks about that stuff. I no longer felt like I needed to fit in with people. I felt confident in myself and comfortable in my own body. And that was a breaking point for me. That was a breakthrough. And I felt so free from the shackles I had put myself in for my whole life. So there began my self-exploration journey. After I healed or started healing from my past traumas and started realizing who I was, I also realized that I wanted to do something different with my life than what I had originally thought. My whole life I trained to be a music teacher, an orchestra teacher. I played many different instruments. I had even started going to college for music education. But in meditating and days of work, I realized music in my childhood had been a way for me to escape. And it didn't really feel good like it did before. I wasn't trying to escape anything anymore. I wasn't trying to use that way. So I felt like I wanted to do something different, something more. I changed my major to environmental science, and then after a while it still felt wrong. I still felt very detached from it, and like the education I was getting in college wasn't right. It wasn't what I needed to do at that time. So after a while of meditating again, I dropped out of college and I took all of the money I had saved from working and I got Reiki training. Reiki is a form of energetic work, and it is really amazing and continued and still continues to change my life. I became a Reiki practitioner and started my business, and then I still realized, I don't just want to do Reiki. I want to do many different things. I started schooling with the Chestnut School of Herbal Medicine. I am an herbalist. I created Rising Moon Apothecary, where I create, hand make, and sell many apothecary products, from salves and herbal baths to candles and energetic medicine bags and many different things. So I wanted to share this because I was able to heal, and am still healing, from a very traumatic past. And I know that you, whoever is watching this, you are capable of doing the same thing. You are capable of going through life and not just existing. You are capable of thriving in what you truly want to do. It took me a very long time and many different things to realize that this is the path where I'm supposed to be on. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be sharing my story and serving others with natural living and energetic healing, because I know that it has helped me greatly in life, and I wouldn't be who I am today without my past and without Reiki and herbs and all of this. And I really want to share my story and help others do the same. So I hope you enjoyed. I wish you a blessed day, and stay tuned for more videos to come.